How are you, man? I'm Gil Roth, and you're listening to a bonus episode of my Virtual Memory Show podcast. This is a COVID check-in episode where I record with a past guest of the podcast to find out how they're holding up during the pandemic. As far as how I'm doing, meh. I have some work anxiety that's kind of paralyzing me just now, but if I don't go ahead and make this episode and get out for this morning's run and do what I'm supposed to do, and don't get me wrong, I am tempted, then I feel like I'll just be surrendering to anxiety and strolling on to the abyss and falling into depression and wallowing and all that stuff. So here we are. We'll get right to the show. Today's guest is Emily Flake, checking in from Brooklyn. Emily is a great cartoonist for The New Yorker. We spoke a few months ago about her wonderful book, That Was Awkward, The Art and Etiquette of the Awkward Hug. And at the time, we found excuses not to hug when I arrived at her place, and now it turns out, no one can hug, so, at some point the book will be applicable again. We'll see. Maybe there'll be an addendum for the post-pandemic hug, I guess. Now, in addition to Emily's comics and her gag panels and longer form stuff, she also hosts a couple of regular stage events, Shit Show and Nightmares. And because of the pandemic, she's had to move those to live stream format. Now, Shit Show, where comedians talk about being parents every week, airs live every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can find that at goodorbit.com/live. Good Orbit has a dash between good and orbit. I'll have links to this in the show notes for the episode. Now, as caveats go, not much, just background noise. Her daughter chimes in near the beginning, but that's about it. Here's me and Emily.
How's that?
I feel pretty good about things, okay. I guess. How about you?
It is what it is, man.
We'll make that the opening question. How are you dealing?
Yeah, we're dealing okay. I mean, I got to say, we are lucky in that, we're both still working and neither of us have gotten sick yet. So knock wood. It's hard. It's harder working at home, when schools are closed, because, we're kind of used to having that as our work day. But, all that being said, I feel like, so far we've been super lucky. If the wheels come off either of our particular work buses, we're in a lot of trouble, but
sure.
we're going to keep it together as long as we can.
I guess it's a weird scenario where your kid's work situation is what's screwing up your routine and habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's the kid dealing exactly?
She's okay. She's, she really misses school. She misses seeing her friends. She knows this isn't normal. So she's not like in a funk spiral or anything like that, but she has moments where she just gets so sad. So there's not, oh yeah, very good. I'm talking to a friend of mine.
About me?
Mm-hmm. Asking how you're doing.
Sorry, dude.
So yeah, I mean, everybody's, it's weird. It's a weird time for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And have you blown past all screen time limits you previously had for her?
Look, we never really had much of a limit in place anyway, so. Oh,
good.
Yeah, we've definitely had some modifications of our already lax rules, but yeah. And I kind of go back and forth between feeling like terrible about that and being like, you know what, fuck it. Like, sorry, can I say that? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, as far as I'm concerned, nobody's listening, so it's okay.
Right.
I'm just kidding, but but what's it like? I guess trying to find humor. I mean, on the one side, I know you've also got the longer form strips about parenting in the middle of this stuff, but trying to write gags in the middle of a pandemic.
Well,
easier,
I think
tougher.
from a purely pragmatic point of view, it's because there's almost nothing else that anyone is thinking about right now. We're all kind of at the same trough in terms of like, how many different ways are there to make a joke about Zoom conference calls and toilet paper shortages? So I feel like the scope of what people are kind of addressing right now has narrowed to this, this one all encompassing problem. So that's just, from a purely, again, pragmatic joke writing point of view. That's an interesting challenge, but also, it is, I think it's imperative to try to keep a sense of humor about it. I mean, I think that's bias on my part, because I am a humorist. But I feel like for me personally, to not be able to find any humor in it at all would feel like a surrender.
Sure.
That said, it isn't always easy at all. And I have definitely been a less personally humorous person in the past few weeks than I am under normal circumstances, back when my problems were not quite as dire as they are now.
Jeez. And teaching also, I saw on your site, I think you're still, or not, through the link through Instagram, that you've got the course going again.
Yeah.
Is that adjusting that for, how to, not just how to do gags, but how to do gags in this very, very moment we're in?
Right. I think it's more just that the subject matter is again going to be sort of COVID related. I've run this class before, and the lectures are pre-recorded, so it's not like I've shifted the content of the class so much as I expect that the content of what people produce is going to be somewhat different.
Gotcha. And doing the live shows that you were doing, like Shit Show and Nightmares, shifting those online, how's that gone?
It's we did Nightmares and it was fun. And Shit Show was fun. We pivoted with Shit Show from a stand-up showcase to more of an interview style, just to sort of talk to comedians about how they're faring, in particular comedians with kids, how they're doing parenting wise through this. So I've done one of each of those shows, and it honestly, it feels really good afterwards to have done something where, like, first of all, I'm talking to other adults and, and engaging in something that is important to me. There's an element of sadness to it as well, because it's like a simulacrum of what we really love. And in a way, there's a poignancy to that. It's like having a hologram of a loved one instead of the real loved one. So it in some ways it's better than nothing, and other ways it points out what you've lost.
That's my refrain about doing this instead of the in-person conversations that we have, that I have for the podcast. The sense of, this is pretty good, but it's not quite sitting across a table from someone. Although I always have to make the caveat that between you and me, for our conversation, you spent the entire time painting, doing watercolors and color like that. And I have no idea what you're doing now. You might have some completely different thing that you're engaged in, but normally it's the face-to-face conversation. So. Right. Yeah. Are you painting right now, or are you
at this particular moment? No. No, I'm focusing on you, Gil.
Of all times, the one time I'm not there. So. But yeah, that sense of let's see, the feeling of doing an interview as opposed to the way you were hosting previously. Right. Is it something you're enjoying, or seeing you could incorporate when things start to move back to quote unquote normal? Yeah, I mean, Nightmares is always an interview show, so that format hasn't really changed, and I enjoy that format very much because it sort of speaks to the conversational nature of comedy in general. I feel like, even stand-up is an exchange, it's just like, it's just set up so that only one person is talking and everyone else is reacting. But I enjoy the conversational nature of all of these things. I'd really like to get back to, doing Shit Show as a comedy showcase, because it was, it was a balm, that show. So again, it's like, it's enjoyable, but it isn't
it isn't the real thing. Although in some ways, it makes it so I don't have to, people don't have to get sitters. People don't have to, it makes it more accessible in some ways, which I guess is a silver lining. But I feel like the communal aspect of a live show is hard to replicate online.
Sure. Unless you start doing the laugh track and just
Right.
start like pressing buttons and doing a soundboard of that stuff, which would be really creepy but funny.
Right. Well, some shows have left a few people on screen, like as an audience, which I think is a good idea. Because when this whole thing started and people were just doing their sets into a camera with no reaction, like your body reads that as a bomb.
The John Oliver.
It's very weird. It's very weird, and I feel like obviously, like, we're all figuring out ways to sort of tailor what we're doing to fit this format better, but there's gonna be some weird blind alleys we blunder down, I'm sure.
And I think the big thing here is for people not to hold that sort of stuff against.
Oh, sure.
We're all figuring this shit out on the fly. We all are in this, everybody's stuck.
If there was ever a time not to be like mad at anybody for, for things not working out, like, people who are yelling at delivery people right now are the most garbage of people.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. I had this thing. I'd pre-ordered a book on Amazon that was supposed to come March 17th.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed up March 18th. It was for a guest I was going to record with, and they were sending these apologetic notes that it was going to be a day late. I'm like, I don't care. You have a lot of other shit to send to people. It's much more important than this novel. I can wait a week. It's okay.
Exactly.
But we'll get it to you by tomorrow. I'm like, don't rush.
I have a daily like maintenance inhaler for asthma. I order it from India because it's literally 1/10 of the price. And I ordered it, I put in an order a month ago, and I mean, it is snarled up in shipping and hasn't shown up. And like, they sent me a very apologetic email, and I'm like, listen, I get it, it's coming from the other side of the world, and I understand. I mean, mind you, I'm kind of bummed.
Don't want to die, but
don't want to die. I mean, honestly, like, knock wood, I don't think it's a life or death situation quite yet. I mean, worst comes to worst, like, it will hurt me to pay full price for that medication, but it's not it's not impossible. It'll just really fucking suck.
Now, I will ask, because my day job is representing pharmaceutical contract manufacturers, one of whom makes a albuterol inhaler for a generic customer. First, the India thing is incredibly fucked up because they stopped all shipping out of India for a while they did the lockdown, which has created all sorts of supply snarls.
Right.
But FDA has approved a couple of new HFA inhalers that they believe, some commentators think, is because of the India lockdown. They're trying to get more non-India manufactured stuff out there. So after this, I'll send you a link to some stuff just in case it turns out that, there's a generic version that you can get that's going to be in between the India price and what you're paying.
Hey, listen, if you can just somehow find some Advair that falls off a truck somewhere, like, send it my way.
Yeah, that was the big one. It took, again, this is all harkening back to my day job. That took forever to get a generic finally approved, but they finally got one approved. So, prices should start to drop just at the time that everybody is freaked out because of the supply because of India. So, yeah, it's a complicated world like that. Speaking of supplies, art supplies, are you loaded up, or is that something you're at risk of running down on?
Not yet. I've got a pretty good amount of paper. I've got some, I've got my watercolor pans. I've got enough ink. I'm doing pretty well as far as that goes. So that's good. We're doing okay for now. And I also, I do a fair amount of work digitally, and we're not in any, danger of running out of pixels anytime soon. So
but there's always a technical mishaps. It's why I overload with computer backups and everything else that I have, just in case something doesn't work. I want to be set. But no, you've been binging on anything culturally, either TV, reading, movies, etc., or does the kid thing mean you're kind of, at
Yeah,
tugs?
the kid things means I'm kind of, like, and she's a good kid, and she can, she can do certain things fairly independently, but yeah, hasn't really been a whole lot of time to like concentrate on stuff. And, I try to work after she goes to bed. But that can be, that can be tough. I'm a lot tireder than I usually am. So that it's hard to sort of pull out of the skid after she goes to sleep and, get things done in that, precious time of when she's asleep and John's asleep and I kind of have the place to myself. But yeah, that said, she got super into the show Blackish, which is an excellent show. So we've been kind of watching that together. And let's see what else. I've been looking at stuff, like watching things here and there. I'm trying to I challenge her to a reading, like a book challenge. So like who can read the most books, which is basically just a ruse to give us some reading time. But yeah. And
comics should count. I've always felt
100%,
when I was a kid.
Of course.
That was always technically this is not a full book, but it should be a fraction.
Yeah.
Because it was all superhero stuff when I was a kid. So, folks doing okay?
As far as I know, they're in South Carolina. They're in sort of like a semi-assisted situation. They're not reporting anybody sick at their particular thing yet, but they're kind of confined to their rooms and a little bit of walking outside, which is a bummer. But
are you getting out more? Are you getting out at all?
Oh yeah. I mean, we take bike rides and walks and stuff like that. So. Because, we don't have a yard. If we don't go outside at all, I think we'll just go insane.
That's what I was sort of wondering. So
yeah.
Good. I'm glad you're getting out. Is there etiquette when it comes to seeing people coming in the other direction as to who veers out of the way?
I don't know if there's a who does it, but everybody seems to sort of like give a bit of a wide berth, which is sad, man. Like this pandemic, I feel like robs us of so much. It robs us of the literal stuff of life, of breath. And it robs us of the real in-face community that makes life worth living. It's a fucking bummer.
Do you feel like, I don't mean it in any sort of, but we learned something good about it, that sense that people are willing to make those sacrifices and concessions, that people are being less assholic than you may have expected under dystopian conditions? To
an extent. I think people are kind of like, coming, are kind of showing up for this and being helpful in a way that highlights our better nature. I think that's cause for optimism right now. I think as shit grows steadily worse, I don't know how much, when everybody's really got the screws to them, I don't know if that fabric will hold or if it'll become sort of every man for himself.
Yeah. We were up here for Hurricane Sandy and the other one, where we basically just went into Mad Max territory pretty quickly, but that's a case where like essential services started to get cut, electricity, things like that. Once the internet's gone, I think that could be a proving moment for us. On the other hand, there'll be no evidence of it because it's not on the internet.
Right, exactly.
So that'll be the flip side.
We were riding through the park and Tug saw some woman yelling at another guy. He had passed her too close or whatever, and what I told her is that, frightened people are dangerous people. And when things are tense like they are now, we have to be extra careful because, when you're scared, it's like like a cat will scratch if it's frightened, and people do the same thing. So, we'll have to be careful.
Speaking of the cat, is it going insane with having you guys around all the time?
No, the cat is living its best life. Okay. Yeah, he gets a little testy when Tug keeps picking him up over and over, but he is a very good chill cat. He's basically Xanax in a fursuit.
Nice. Where do you want to go first? If, we were past this, is it restaurant, bookstore, something?
I just want to have people over for dinner, man. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have this vision of throwing some big party of like all you guys, all these past podcasts. And then I realize everybody's going to be doing the same thing.
Right.
Everybody's going to be holding these sorts of things and I can just mooch off of them.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah. And more in touch with old friends.
In
earlier,
some ways.
Or are you keeping that up?
Yeah. People are checking in. I'm on a couple great group texts and WhatsApp rooms that have really been incredibly helpful. And in some ways, would not have flourished if not for this situation that we're in. So it's good to stay connected in that way.
Last two questions. Have you figured out your best Zoom angle?
No, I look like shit from every angle. It's fine.
Okay. I was sort of checking because nobody has figured out, what makes it actually look good. And keeping any sort of journal? I know you've done some longer comics about what we're going through, but are you sort of chronicling either prose or informal drawing?
Not in any kind of dedicated way. I've always been a really shitty journal keeper. So, I am trying to I'm trying to grapple with what's going on with the tools that I have, but I'm not keeping a journal per se. No.
Okay. I've been doing it prior to this, and I realize most of what I'm writing has nothing to do with the pandemic. It's still me and my self-involvedness. So I'm sort of hoping somebody could justify my own self-centered behavior.
I'll justify it for you. You don't need a book to do that.
Oh, you're wonderful. Okay. Well, you get back to semi-awkward hugs. Are you looking forward to that at least? Like people being able to hug awkwardly? Is that, a sign?
I am. Yeah. I mean, I last hugged someone outside of my family a month ago and I miss it.
Yeah. It's such a weird, when you start to add up the time that goes by from the last time we did X or Y or Z, it really does get kind of freaky.
It does.
Anyway, I'll let you get back to it. We'll post this in time for the next shit show. And, I hope we're sitting at a table sometime soon with you, watercoloring away and not making eye contact.
Yeah. That sounds ideal.
And that was Emily Flake. Go check out her website, emilyflake.com, for more about her comics, gags, books, performances, illustration work, etc. She's on Twitter as Emily Flake, EMILYFLAKE, and on Instagram as eFlakeagogo, which is EFLAKEAGOGO. Just go to Instagram and search Emily Flake, you'll find it. Her most recent book is That Was Awkward, The Art and Etiquette of the Awkward Hug. You can also check out her gags and longer form work for The New Yorker at newyorker.com/contributors/Emily-Flake. And if you visit goodorbit.com/live, you can find info about her upcoming live streams of Shit Show and Nightmares. And that's good-orbit.com/live. Shit Show airs every Thursday. This is going up on Wednesday morning. So Thursday night, you can check out the live stream and the archives of past shit shows. Oh, you should also check out Molly and the Unicorn, this pre-pandemic essay that Emily wrote for Long Reads. Just came out this week. It's about enchantment and middle age, and it's a really profound piece of work. Not a humor piece, but more, well, about enchantment and middle age. I'll just leave it at that. There'll be links to all this stuff in the episode and show notes, so check it out there. I'll be back tomorrow with another COVID check-in. If you want to send me a little update to read on the air or have something you want to share with the listeners, let me know and we'll set something up. I'm at groth18, GROTH18 @gmail.com. You can find info at our sites, vmspod.com and chimeraobscura.com/VM. And you can find a link to the COVID-19 sessions at both sites. That'll take you to all of these daily episodes. And in case you're interested in the remote setup that I use to do these COVID check-ins, it's Zencastr.com. That's Zencastr, so no final E. Zencastr is $20 a month, but I have more than enough Patreon support to cover that and my pod hosting service, especially since I'm not spending money on parking and tolls and subways and coffee and all the other stuff for the in-person episodes. So if you can spare anything, don't give it to me. Go to the Patreons, tip jars, Indiegogos, Kickstarters, whatever, GoFundMes for the artists, writers, and other creative people you like, and show them some support. Emily also asks that you look for St. John's Bread and Life, the food bank local to her in Brooklyn, and donate there. I am Gil Roth, trying to stave off some anxiety and depression. Today is April 22nd, 2020, which makes it Earth Day. In honor of that, you should go read The Peregrine by J.A. Baker. You're not going to finish it today, but you should start that one. That'll help give you some better understanding of nature, the Earth, what it's like to get out of being human, I guess. Anyway, this is a bonus episode of my virtual memory show. Thanks for listening / indulging me if you got this far. Keep the conversation going, stay safe, and wash your damn hands.